Baby, be in love with your fantasies. I can be a star, make a sky so bright. Welcome to my dungeon, this is ecstasy. Let me play the fantasy.
What's good, YouTube? It's your girl, Asia.
And it's your boy, BJ. And we back like we never left. Back in the building with another reaction. Okay, I think I got it now. Now, we're about to check out Larry Elder. Now, this is in regards to Michelle Obama when she was speaking about white flight and racism. So, Larry Elder, this is off of Larry Elder's show now. We did a couple of other videos from Larry Elder at his show. But this one is him debunking Michelle Obama just in regards to her views, again, on white flight and racism.
Okay.
So, I'm very interested.
Wait, what is white flight?
That's what I don't know. I'm not really sure. Is he talking about maybe white privilege? I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, that's what I'm thinking. White flight.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, Larry Elder, he's a black conservative. So I like to check him out and see what his perspective is because, like I said, I know a little bit about his background, kind of where he came from, and him getting to the point where he's at right now. So I just feel like he's a respectable individual, and I just like his perspective on a lot of things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not a complete fan of everything that he talks about, but I feel like he has a lot of great insight. Too.
Okay. Yeah, I would have to agree as well. So yeah, I'm excited to hear this. I actually like Michelle Obama.
I do too.
Yeah, I just she's just a very poised woman. I like listening to her talk. Like I've read a book of hers, but yeah.
That's why I wanted to do this.
I don't know if I should say that. Y'all might come for me. Actually, I like Michelle Obama. If you're gonna
read a book.
Yeah.
But I mean, like I said, I like Michelle Obama. Okay. I really like Michelle Obama a lot. So when I saw this come across in regards to like Larry Elder debunking something that Michelle Obama said, I got to check it out. You know what I mean? I got to check it out.
Hey, truth is truth. Okay, I can't get mad. I mean, hey, it is what it is. So let's go.
Michelle Obama recently complained about white flight from her old South Side Chicago neighborhood when she grew up. And she implied it was totally because of anti-black white racism.
But unbeknownst to us, we grew up in the period, as I write, called white flight. Yeah. That is families like ours, upstanding families like ours, who were doing everything we were supposed to do and better. As we moved in, white folks moved out because they were afraid of what our family.
That's what white flight is.
Oh.
Yeah. I can almost somewhat attest to that to a degree, and I'm just being honest. Got to be honest. Got to be. Full disclosure.
I was about to say that.
When I moved to like the suburbs, things of that nature, you kind of felt that temperature as more blacks moved out to that area. It seemed like white people started moving away.
Out, yeah.
But I'm not, hey.
Families represented. And I always stop there when I talk about this out in the world because, I want to remind white folks that y'all were running from us. Because
this family,
yeah. This family with all the values that you read about, you were running from us and you're still running.
Now, I'm 12 years older than Michelle Obama, and I witnessed my neighborhood transitioning from white to black as well. We were the second black family on my block in 1959 when my parents moved from Pico Union to South Central. And within a few years, as happened apparently in Michelle Obama's neighborhood, virtually all the whites moved out. Now, I got to tell you something. I went to a high school, Washington High School, where maybe a third to 50% of the students were white. And I was just there one semester. But I saw several instances of black-white altercations, verbal taunting, physical abuse. And near as I could figure out, whenever I could determine who started it, it was a black person. Now, I'm not saying whites didn't start fights. I'm just saying in that one semester when I was there, I saw many instances in which whites were picked on, verbally taunted, verbally abused, pushed around. I never saw it the other way around. Now, you're a white kid, you come home to your parents and you tell them you got beaten up or put down or verbally taunted by black kids. What are your parents going to do? They're going to move out. Now, I'm not saying that all of the moving out had to do with that. But to ignore the fact that a lot of times there was friction between blacks and whites, and a lot of time the friction was started by a black person, is to ignore a much more complicated picture, and Michelle Obama is ignoring the reality. Let me give you another example. First day
I kind of think back, he kind of gave a little bit of his childhood, kind of where he grew up at, the high school, things of that nature. Mm-hmm. Sometimes when I think about it to a degree, like I said, I felt like that same type of temperature is what kind of went on when I moved, like, to the suburb. You kind of felt like that tension in the air between black and white people. Like, that was definitely apparent. Like, when we moved to, like, the suburbs, from the inner city to the suburb, it took a few years for me to see it, but by the time I got to, like, maybe, like, the 7th grade, I could kind of see it. I could kind of feel it, and you could see it in regards to, like, just the disparity between like the blacks and the whites.
You're right. Yeah, when I think about it, I mean, but I don't know. I can't really, like, when I think about it. Yeah, I guess so. I guess you can say that it felt like there was like some type of tension between the black kids and the white kids, but I don't.
And even like he said with the taunting.
I guess because I never thought of it like that. I didn't see white kids that way. I saw kids as kids, and so now, like, in hindsight, like, but yeah, thinking about that though, as you say that, you got to remember though, when y'all moved to where y'all were and we moved to where we were, I was still literally in kindergarten. So
it might have taken a little bit longer.
It might have taken a little bit longer, yeah, for me to
even recognize.
Yeah. Yeah, but as I got older, like I'm talking junior high, probably like AT, intermediate school. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You started kind of seeing it?
I do. Yeah.
And Michelle Obama is ignoring the reality. Let me give you another example. First day high school, Washington High School. I'm eating lunch by myself. There's a white kid not too far from me eating lunch by himself. 3 or 4 black guys come up to him, and one black guy carefully removes a white handkerchief from his pocket, lays it on the rail that the white kid was leaning against, and says, "Clean my shoe." And the white kid says, "Excuse me?" And the black guy said, "I said shine my shoe." And the white kid said, "Why should I shine your shoe? I don't even know you. I haven't done anything to you." And the black guy looked at the clock, pointed to it, and said, "When that clock strikes 1 o'clock, the bell's going to go off. If that bell goes off and you haven't shined my shoe, I'm going to kick your you-know-what." Tick, tick, tick. More and more people started gathering around, and the white kid refused to shine his shoe. The bell went off, and the black kid balled his fist up and hit that white kid in the face. And let me tell you something. When somebody gets hit in the face in real life, it doesn't sound like television. It sounded awful. Mm-hmm. But this white kid knew some form of martial art or something, and he assumed some sort of fighting position and started beating the crap out of this black kid. And then the black kid's friends jumped in, and pretty soon the white kid was fighting off 2 or 3 people, and then pretty soon more people jumped in, and pretty soon the white kid started running, and a stream of all black people were following him. Now again, I saw lots of things like that over the course of that semester. Nothing quite that dramatic. Now, how many white kids went home to their mothers and fathers and said, "Look, I got bullied, I got picked on, I got pushed around, I got hit for no reason"? How many times did it happen? And when it did happen, how many parents do you think said, "Okay, we've got to move"? All I'm saying is to ignore this is to ignore a much more complicated picture. I had a very good friend who was an amazing athlete, but he had an attitude. And the coach, white coach, did not know how to deal with him and with the black kids who moved into the neighborhood. Many of them were very disrespectful. In one case, my friend came to practice late. He was the best player on the team. The coach dressed him down verbally, and my friend took off his jersey, threw it in the coach's face, and the coach started him. Now, when all the major colleges came, when Notre Dame came, when UCLA came, when Marquette came to recruit this guy, the coach told the truth about what happened. And my friend did not get recruited at any of the major schools and blamed it on the coach's racism, as opposed to the way he treated that coach. All I'm saying is there were a lot of instances like that when I was growing up, which is why there was also in my neighborhood black flight. A lot of black people moved out or sent their kids to Catholic schools because of the growing violence that was going on in some of these public schools. And this is well before busing. Another thing about...
I can attest to that too, because my younger cousins, just living in the inner city, like my aunt made sure that they didn't go to public schools.
Yeah.
Like she sent them to the other side of town to make sure they went to a private school.
Yeah. Boy, that's tough.
Just in regards to the inner city, just being around, the inner city, public schools, things like that. So,
Yeah.
But I can see it both ways. Yeah, I'm sure you can see it both ways in regards to what what Larry Elder is explaining, like the supposed white flight, white people moving out of the community because more black people are coming in. Mm-hmm. Did you see that in regards to like black people too?
But don't black people move because there are more black people coming in?
That's what I'm asking. Did you see that growing up, like black flight? Did you ever like see that or ever witness it or you ever hear about like friends saying, no, we're moving because the kids here and other black kids?
Mm-mm.
No.
It was always. I mean, if anything, it was white people were moving because of black people.
Yeah, and it just, I'll be honest, like it just seemed that way in the community because, again, like I said, the suburb, it seemed like, more black people started moving to the suburb, and white people started moving out.
But you gotta think though, like, I mean.
But was it because of...
Look, man, we moved from Oak Cliff to like to a city that wasn't even like built up yet. Mm-hmm. And when you start taking a lot of people, when you see a lot of what you see, like coming from school districts like that, Oak Cliff, like, and nothing against, hey, shout out to everybody that's in Oak Cliff, but like, when you grow up in an environment where a lot of those things, those situations, fights, cussing kids, teachers, you know what I mean, are happening, and then you go to a different place outside of that norm. Like, it's almost like you have to readjust your mindset, and it's something, it takes time, just as much time as it took for you to get into the mindset that you are in that frame, in that place where you are. It takes for you to get out of that, going somewhere completely different and having to readjust and become a part of that, you know what I mean? The new normal. Mm-hmm. So I mean, I can see how, that can affect people, especially when you have people who are already in the norm, the new normal, you know what I mean? That live this certain type of way. And then you start bringing in people who have a whole different way.
And then you just drop somebody in the middle of it. I felt like that too when we did move to the suburbs. I felt kind of out of place for a few years because I wasn't around that type of environment and right. around those same type of kids. Like when I looked around my classroom when I was in the inner city, I saw something completely different than when we moved into the suburbs. So it did take some time to adjust.
It did.
White flight. Eric Holder, Obama's AG, complained about what he called pernicious racism. One example he gave was the fact that black boys are suspended and expelled from school disproportionately more compared to their percentage in that given school student body. Jesse Jackson made the same argument back in 1999 when Decatur, Illinois, a school district there, kicked out a bunch of black kids for fighting after a football game. In comes Jesse Jackson, files a lawsuit against the all-white Decatur School Board and accuses them of racism. The Decatur School Board, however, defended itself by pointing out, irrespective of the race of the school board, irrespective of the race of the teacher, all across America, black boys are disproportionately kicked out or suspended from school. Even in Oakland, where the Oakland School Board was predominantly, quote, people of color, black boys were substantially more likely to be kicked out or suspended than non-black boys. You cannot blame it on racism. Now, if you're a white kid going to a school where there's more violence and black kids are disproportionately kicked out, and you go home and you tell your parents about this, what do you think your parents are going to do? Back to Michelle Obama. In 2008, when her husband was running for president, they were interviewed by Steve Kroft of 60 Minutes. Kroft asked her the following.
This is a tough question to ask, but a number of years ago, Colin Powell was thinking about running for president. And his wife, Alma, really did not want him to run. She was worried about some crazy person with a gun. Mm-hmm. Has that been a factor? I mean, have you talked about that? Is that something that you think about?
I don't lose sleep over it because the realities are is that, as a black man, Barack can get shot going to the gas station.
So she's admitting that her neighborhood is dangerous. Again, does that at all contribute to what she complained about, white flight? Now let's talk about education. Michelle Obama says that she went to a public school, and that's true. However, she did not go to the local public school. She was on a bus 3 hours a day to go to what essentially was a Chicago magnet school in order to avoid the inferior local school. Does that at all contribute to white flight? The quality of education? The quality of local schools? I saw the same thing.
No, right?
Wow. He's touching on some pretty touchy stuff right there. Just in regards to white flight,
would
black
it be
flight.
white flight or black flight? Like, because she would be the one that would be leaving To go
to go to the other side of town,
right?
You know what I mean?
Ooh.
Because of the educational opportunity.
Oh,
you
I
know?
never thought about it that way.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that she's running from the black community. It may just mean that obviously, just like I just told you a minute ago, in regards to like my aunt, like my two younger cousins, like everybody else went to a public school.
Yeah.
When it came to their time to go to a public school, she was like, y'all going to the other side of town.
Yeah.
Just because of the school system.
Yeah.
I don't think it had anything to do with them being around other black kids. I think it was just the environment of what that public school brought to education.
Which I can see that, and I can understand that too. I mean, so I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
So sometimes I don't think that's necessarily black flight in regards to that. I just think that's just.
So what he's saying though, it seems like it's more so that people tend to like kind of gear towards the fact of like, white people running from black people for racism issues when it's not to do with necessarily race per se.
Not necessarily. Sometimes even with the white flight, like trying to understand, like is white flight about white people not wanting to be around black people, or is it white flight because they want to move out because of being around black people and what it's bringing to them? Just like he's explaining, being harassed and being beat
but
up
that's the thing, like, and that's
bullied.
I guess that's where it becomes a slippery slope because without being disrespectful, it's just like some people just don't want to live around certain things. You know what I mean? Yeah. Certain people. I mean, like, we've been in places in neighborhood, like we've lived in somewhere before, and we were very unhappy with where we were because of the people who like were our neighbors. You know what I mean? Like They were taking place in festivities and things that we weren't comfortable with. You know what I mean? And so it to me, it just made sense that we moved from that area because I wasn't comfortable with that, nor like for my kids, for the schools, for them walking home, like for multiple reasons. You know what I mean?
But what is it? Is it because of the people you're around? Is it more racial or is it more environmental?
It's more, to me, it's more environmental. I'm just like, my mindset is that I want the best for, what makes sense for us and my children. You know what I mean? So that's my mindset is I need to be somewhere where I feel safe, where I feel comfortable, where I feel like, I can allow those things to happen without having to think that there's a possibility that something might take place between the time of, my kids walking home or the bus, the bus getting here safely, there's multiple things, what they might see from that house to this house, from the corner, you know what I mean? Like, I think about all of those things. Like, it could be anybody though. Like, I don't care what color they are. So, and I'm saying that to say, like, to me, it's not about the race, it's about the environment.
Right. I agree. I agree. I think first and foremost, that's what it should be about.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what he's kind of trying to convey in regards to when Michelle Obama is saying that white people start moving out of the community. You know what I mean? Yeah.
But you can't relate the environment to race, per se. You know what I mean? Unless that's really what it is.
Right. But you have to be 100% sure that's what it is.
Right. Yeah.
White flight, the quality of education, the quality of local schools. I saw the same thing when I was growing up. There were families in my neighborhood that put their kids in Catholic schools because they thought the academic curve was better and because they thought there was less violence. Does something like that contribute to white flight? Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez inadvertently also made the case for white flight when she talked about what her family did in order for her to avoid going to an inferior local government school.
I looked at the quality of education in the Bronx, and they looked at 50% dropout rates. They looked at the inequity of education, the inequity of education funding, the fact that teachers weren't paid, the fact that kids weren't given their tools to succeed, and that frankly, it not only had to do with their income, but it had to do with their melanin too. And so my family made a really hard decision. And my whole family chipped in to buy a small house about 40 minutes north of here. And that's when I got my first taste of a country who allows their kids' destiny to be determined by the zip code that they are born in.
Now let's take a look at another factor. Interracial violent black-white crime. Here's what the Manhattan Institute's Heather McDonald says. Just this month, the Bureau of Justice Statistics released its 2018 survey of criminal victimization. According to the study, there were 593,598 interracial violent victimizations, excluding homicide, between blacks and whites last year, including white on black and black on white attacks. Blacks committed 537,204 of those interracial felonies, or 90%. Whites committed 56,394 of them, or less than 10%. End of.
I remember when he was pulling out these surveys, but so that was September 23rd, 2019. Sometimes even with, because they're saying how many people released
537,204 of the committed crimes out of the 598 interracial felonies.
I remember from another video that we watched of Larry Elder. He kind of pointed on some of these survey numbers.
Yeah, like here it is again.
So these numbers are kind of comparable to what we saw last time.
Yeah.
Or less than 10%. End of quote.
Wow.
Finally,
Wow.
Michelle Obama says about whites, "You're still running."
And you still running.
Then why did Reverend Al Sharpton tee off on whites for moving into Harlem, calling them interlopers? And why did Spike Lee do this epic rant against white people moving into certain areas of New York? Check this out.
Gentrification. You mentioned gentrification with some slightly negative connotations, and I wondered if you've ever looked at it from the other side, which is that if your family was still in that $40,000 home, it's now worth $3.5 or $4 million.
All right, let me just kill you right now.
Okay, go for it.
Because there was some bull article in the New York Times saying the good of gentrification. I don't believe that. Here's the thing. I grew up here in Fort Greene. I grew up here in New York. It's changed. And why does it take influx of white New Yorkers in the South Bronx, in Harlem, in Bed-Stuy, in Crown Heights for the facility to get better? The garbage wasn't picked up every motherfucking day when I lived at 165 Washington Park. PS20 was not good. PS11. Rothschild, 294. So why the police went around? When you see white mothers pushing their babies in strollers 3 o'clock in the morning to 125th Street, that must tell you something.
And I don't dispute that.
Whoa. And even more. Let me kill you some more.
What does it tell you? If you have a white person pushing a baby around at 3 o'clock in the morning?
What does it tell you?
I'm just asking.
I'm not sure.
What is it supposed to mean?
I'm not sure. Well, what he's trying to say is in regards to like gentrification, if a woman can push a baby around at 3 in the morning, then there's no threat in regards to like violence or crimes being committed, because now, the way that the neighborhood is, when, it could have been a completely different situation, if there was no gentrification in that area. Like the disparity between
right.
now and then,
Gotcha.
without it being gentrified.
Okay. Okay.
Whoa. And even more. Let me kill you some more.
I'm coming back. Can I talk about that?
No, not yet. And then comes the motherfucking Christopher Columbus syndrome. You can't discover this. We've been here. You just can't come in both bars.
But.
And you still running.
So which is it? Whites are racist because they left neighborhoods that became all black, or whites are racist because they're moving into mostly all black neighborhoods? And by the way, When it comes to discrimination, nobody has clean hands. Check out this 1999 article from the Los Angeles Times. Despite being one of the most diverse metropolitan areas in the world, Greater Los Angeles remains a hotbed of racial and ethnic housing discrimination. 2 recent studies of rental practices found that Latino landlords are discriminating against African Americans and black landlords are discriminating against Latinos at levels comparable to those practiced by whites against minority groups a decade ago. End of quote. Moral to the story, no group has a monopoly on hate and on fear.
Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering.
So, when it comes to white flight and black flight, the picture is a little more complicated than the one Michelle Obama painted for us. I'm Larry Elder, and this has been the Larry Elder Show for Epic Times. I'll see you next time.
Wow.
Was that Yoda? I think that was Yoda.
I have no idea.
From the Star Wars.
I've never watched it. I have no idea what that was. It just looked funny.
You know what? I like Larry Elder because of his interesting perspective. I like how he kind of lays everything out on the line, and he always tries to look for what the actual issue is. He doesn't turn to like race to say that it's always race related. You know.
You know, and these videos are really good, you know, for a lot of reasons, for a lot of people. Mostly just because, like, I feel like since we started watching this, like, I've definitely had an eye-opening, like, turn of events with a lot of things that are being said, you know, in these videos, like with Larry Elder, the things that we've been watching in terms of, like, you know, early on slavery, just history in general. And a lot of it, I feel like, was a misinterpretation on my behalf, and just not knowing and just feeling like, you know, what I see on the news, like, not necessarily I was believing everything, but I feel like I was comfortable with that. You know what I mean? And now I'm starting to, I've definitely had a much wider realization in terms of, like, you know, what is actually racist. And, you know, really just kind of, I mean, I've never thought color was an issue. Just me in general. You've heard me say this a million times. Like, the majority of my friends are white. I mean, or Hispanic. Just to be honest, that's the truth. And so, and I've never had any issues with that. But I've heard a lot of people tell stories, like, you know, who are black people, where they've given, you know, these encounters, these situations, these instances where they've, you know, in their life form, you know, have come across racism, or this racist white person, or racist this, or race, and it's just like, it's almost like the word is so misused, misinterpreted, misunderstood.
It can be used a lot, very, very loosely, because even when I was younger, it was I felt like it was used loosely, but I didn't have any understanding in regards to it, because it felt like that's what people always kind of pointed to was race, especially like I said, when growing up, when it came down to exactly what he's speaking about in regards to white flight or black flight. Like, it just seemed like growing up, when we did go to the suburbs, people always pointed to white people moving out, and they always pointed to they not wanting to be around black people, which is basically the same connotation that Michelle Obama said. But again, there's so many other underlying factors that you got to take into account when you see these things going on, like especially when it comes to like the schools and things that happen at the school. Just like they were saying, like what happens when your child comes home and they say, you know, this has been happening. I'm being bullied. I'm being pressured. I'm being beat up. You know, whatever's going on. You know, you can't always point to it actually being racist. It's more of an environmental thing. What's going on in the environment? You know, all the, you know, the moving parts inside the environment. Sometimes that has to do with it outside of the melanin. Yeah. You know,
it's a lot deeper than just trying to call out somebody just being racist for moving, or racist because they, you know, like. Yeah.
I like this video, and then again, like I said, I like Michelle Obama. I can't say I'm a fan of her, but I like who she is as a woman per se. You know what I mean? At the end of the day. But in regards to that quote that she made at the very beginning, saying that white people are just running, that's not completely true.
But these, like I said, this is definitely give you a different. Even if it doesn't change your mind in terms of what you think, it definitely just gives you a wider perspective of, thinking outside of the norm, the box, if you know what I mean, and I can appreciate that. Yeah, because I feel like my eyes are opening up to a lot of different things, like even my thoughts, even just in terms of like what I've known people to think or feel or say, especially when it comes to these political topics that we talk about. Like I feel like if I'm being honest, if I sat down with a group of my friends right now and started telling them about the things that we've been watching and seeing and hearing, like they gonna stop talking to me.
I'll probably not stop talking to you, but you could probably open up some eyes and have people thinking in a different way.
Yeah, they'll sit there and smile, but then after we're done, I'll probably never hear from them again.
Yeah,
that's just the truth. Yeah. It's just the truth. I mean,
people come and they go. You can't hide from the truth. If you know the truth, then you can accept it.
Yeah. Yeah. Which I would expect. So, yeah. So, hey. If y'all enjoyed this video, be sure you give us a big thumbs up, like, comment, and subscribe. Smash that notification bell, join the family. And if ain't nobody else told you, I love you. And we're going to see y'all in the next video, y'all.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Bye.